Hello everyone, how are you doing? I hope you're doing great. I hope I don't wake up the neighbours. I'm speaking quietly into this microphone, but there's certain things I have to share with you, certain things I got to tell you, which is so important. And this is that number one out of everything is that there was an ancient high-tech civilization, and that this is a fact. It cannot be disputed anymore. It's a 100% fact. And I know it's a fact because all my colleagues agree with this. All my colleagues on YouTube agree with it. It's not just me saying it, they're all saying that. Mr. Brian Forster, he always says ancient high-tech cutting. He doesn't say geopolymer or putty, like I say putty. He says ancient high-tech cutting, and no one's seen these stones more than he has. We have Praveen Mahajan, who has a very successful YouTube channel, and if I was in India, I would probably be doing what he's doing. And he shows how temples have ancient medical knowledge in them, high-tech medical knowledge, and other high-tech ancient clues in them. And I've never been to India, but I know he's telling the truth, and these are real clues. Because having read the Indian texts, I know very well that these are full of ideas of high technology. Ancient nuclear weapons, ancient anti-nuclear weapons, missile interceptor missiles. Different types of nuclear weapons are described. There's even one technology in one Indian text which actually describes a kind of weapon which is a shimmering skin, and it actually says in the ancient text it bounces back the light particles and rendering that object invisible. And this is described as a weapon of war. So these people were not just high-tech, they were super high-tech, and something happened to them, something destroyed them. I've often said that India preserves the knowledge because they're a very southern part of the northern hemisphere. So whatever destroyed and wiped out this civilization must have been possibly a space catastrophe or something coming in from the North Pole. I've discovered also on my channel, I've written in my books, that we seem to have knowledge of ancient cloning in the Bible. And I went one step further. This is common knowledge, but I went one step further than this to show that the ribs are just a metaphor for the number of chromosomes. Because chromosomes, like ribs, they double up, and the human male is slightly missing one because one is a bit smaller. So there's all this evidence, all this multitudinous evidence. We look at channels like, for example, Ancient History Criticism. So he's a colleague, and we talk on Twitter, and he's done so much work. You could call it the equivalent of a master's or PhD into ancient stonework. He's looked at every piece of ancient stonework he can find. And his conclusion is that this stonework was all built by a high-tech race who were able to literally mould stone with techniques we cannot understand. Now, it's all very well for certain archaeologists to write in their publications, in order for those publications to actually be published, that these ancient people cut the stones and used one as a mould against the other and so forth. Let them do it, let them try. The fact is, and we're dealing with facts, no one knows how any of these ancient walls were built. All this is pointing to archaeological evidence for an ancient, lost, high-technology civilization. There are historical clues. There are archaeological clues. And I'm not even factoring in the Great Pyramid. I don't believe the Great Pyramid is sufficiently high enough for this. The Great Pyramid it could have been built by Khufu. It is not sufficiently high-tech enough. But even if it was built in Khufu's time, it does show relics of a knowledge of the size of the planet, and possibly it betrays evidence of worldwide interregnal travel. So I've got all my YouTube colleagues agreeing with this fact that there is an ancient high-tech technology. Look in the ancient texts, look at the Shamir of Solomon. The Shamir of Solomon, I would compare it to the Greek Medusa, something with snakes coming out or worms coming out, and it just needs to look at a rock and it blasts the rock, it shapes the rock. Now, this is not something come up with by a Stone Age imagination, particularly if we keep seeing this over and over and over again in the texts. And the only conclusion I've come to, based on a synchronization of evidence, a confluence of evidence, pointing to the one idea, the only thing that I can come up with is that there was indeed a high-tech civilization. Now, some people are going to say, Charlie, there can't be an ancient high-tech civilization because people were primitive back then. I know. No, they weren't. They were us back then. And look what we can do. Look at the evidence of what we can do. It's unbelievable. So we are entering a phase. All my colleagues in Ancient Mysteries on YouTube agree with what I'm saying. And I agree with what they're saying, with their extremely learned and eminent deductions, that there is an ancient time where high technology existed, even higher than our technology today. That is obvious, very obvious. Historical evidence, legendary evidence, archaeological evidence. It's unbelievable. No one can build those walls, no one. No builder can build those walls. Half of the people watching my channel about those walls aren't even interested in archaeology. They're actually builders and stonemasons. They're interested in technology and techniques. No one knows how they were built. And if they do, if they claim to know how they were built, they're lying. Because they haven't built one themselves. They can't. No one can. And what does this tell us? With all our technology, we can't build those walls. No one can build those walls. So, ancient high technology, it must be a fact, and it must be accepted as a fact. And that is about all I have to say in this video. This is not a fancy, this is a fact. There is so much evidence pointing to ancient high technology, it's unbelievable. And that is what I wanted to tell you in this video. Cheers.